Have you ever wondered how a conflict that started in one corner of Europe spiraled into a global war, engulfing nations from every continent? World War II wasn't just one big fight. It was a complex web of battles, strategies, and turning points that reshaped our world forever. Today, we're going to journey through the timeline of this monumental conflict, explaining the major battles that defined its course. Get ready, because history is about to come alive. Our story begins not in 1939, but earlier, with the seeds of conflict being sown across the globe. In Asia, the Second Sino-Japanese War had been raging since 1937, a brutal conflict that would eventually merge with the wider World War. In Europe, tensions were at a breaking point. On September 1st, 1939, Germany invaded Poland, employing a new, terrifying tactic known as blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This combination of air power and fast-moving armored divisions overwhelmed Polish defenses. In response, Britain and France declared war on Germany 2 days later, officially beginning World War II in Europe. But the initial phase was strangely quiet in the West, a period nicknamed the Phony War. That quiet was shattered in the spring of 1940. Germany's war machine roared back to life, invading Denmark and Norway to secure vital iron ore routes. Then, in May, the blitzkrieg was unleashed on Western Europe. German forces bypassed the heavily fortified French Maginot Line by storming through the Ardennes Forest, a move considered impassable. They swept through Belgium, the Netherlands, and into France. With breathtaking speed, Allied forces were pushed back to the coast at Dunkirk in a miraculous evacuation. Over 338,000 soldiers were rescued by a flotilla of naval ships and civilian boats, a moment of hope in an otherwise disastrous campaign. By June 22nd, France had fallen, leaving Britain to stand alone against the German juggernaut. With continental Europe under his control, Hitler turned his sights on Britain. The Battle of Britain, fought in the skies from July to October 1940, was a pivotal moment. The German Luftwaffe sought to gain air superiority as a prelude to a sea invasion, codenamed Operation Sea Lion. But the pilots of Britain's Royal Air Force, flying Spitfires and Hurricanes and aided by the crucial technology of radar, fought back with incredible courage. They inflicted heavy losses on the Luftwaffe, forcing Hitler to indefinitely postpone the invasion. It was the first major defeat for the German military, proving they were not invincible. As Britain held on, the war expanded. In North Africa, Italian and later German forces, led by the brilliant Erwin Rommel, the Desert Fox, clashed with British and Commonwealth troops over control of the Suez Canal and vital oil fields. Meanwhile, in the Balkans, Germany intervened to support its Italian ally, conquering Greece and Yugoslavia. The conflict was becoming truly global, but the biggest shock was yet to come. On June 22, 1941, Hitler betrayed his non-aggression pact with the Soviet Union and launched Operation Barbarossa, the largest land invasion in history. 3 massive German army groups pushed deep into Soviet territory, aiming to cripple the Red Army before winter. Initially, the invasion was devastatingly successful, capturing millions of soldiers and vast territories. The German advance seemed unstoppable, reaching the very gates of Moscow. But they underestimated 2 things: the brutal Russian winter and the sheer resilience of the Soviet people. The offensive ground to a halt in the freezing snows of December 1941. Just as the tide was turning in the east, the war exploded in the Pacific. On December 7, 1941, the Empire of Japan launched a surprise attack on the U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. The attack was devastating, but it failed to destroy the American aircraft carriers, which were out at sea. The next day, the United States declared war on Japan, and a few days later, Germany and Italy declared war on the U.S. The sleeping giant had awoken, and the war was now a truly global conflict. The first half of 1942 was grim for the Allies. Japan scored a string of stunning victories, capturing the Philippines, Singapore, and much of Southeast Asia. But the tide began to turn with 2 key naval battles. First, the Battle of the Coral Sea in May, which, though a tactical draw, strategically halted the Japanese advance towards Australia. Then came the big one, the Battle of Midway in June 1942. American codebreakers had deciphered Japanese plans, allowing the U.S. Navy to ambush the Japanese fleet. The U.S. lost one carrier, but Japan lost 4 of its best carriers, a catastrophic blow from which its navy would never fully recover. Midway was the turning point in the Pacific War, back in the Soviet Union. This summer of 1942 saw a renewed German offensive, this time aimed at the oil fields of the Caucasus and the industrial city of Stalingrad on the Volga River. The Battle of Stalingrad, which began in August, became one of the bloodiest in history. Fought street by street, building by building, it was a brutal war of attrition. In November, the Soviets launched a massive Operation Uranus, encircling the entire German Sixth Army. Cut off and starving in the winter cold, they were forced to surrender in February 1943. Stalingrad was a catastrophic defeat for Germany and a monumental victory for the Soviet Union. It marked the definitive turning point on the Eastern Front. From this point forward, the Red Army would be on the offensive. With the Axis on the back foot, the Allies prepared to open a new front in Europe. In July 1943, Allied forces invaded Sicily and then mainland Italy, leading to the downfall of Mussolini. The fight up the Italian peninsula was slow and brutal, but it tied down significant German forces. All the while, the main event was being planned. On June 6, 1944, the largest amphibious invasion in history was launched. Allied troops landed on the beaches of Normandy in France under a storm of fire. After securing a beachhead, they fought their way inland, culminating in the liberation of Paris in August. With the front now open in the west, Germany was caught in a two-front war, squeezed between the advancing Soviets in the east and the Anglo-American forces in the west. The final year of the war saw the relentless advance of Allied armies. In the west, the Germans attempted one last desperate gamble in December 1944 with the Battle of the Bulge, but the surprise attack ultimately failed, depleting their last reserves. Allied bombers were systematically destroying German cities and industry. In the east, the Red Army launched a series of massive offensives, pushing through Poland and into Germany itself. By April 1945, Soviet troops were fighting in the streets of Berlin. On April 30th, Hitler took his own life in his bunker. On May 8, 1945, Germany officially surrendered, a day celebrated as Victory in Europe Day, or V-Day. But the war wasn't over. In the Pacific, Allied forces were island-hopping closer and closer to Japan, fighting ferocious battles on islands like Iwo Jima and Okinawa. These battles showed the immense cost an invasion of the Japanese mainland would entail. To avoid such a catastrophic scenario and bring the war to a swift end, U.S. President Harry Truman made a momentous decision. On August 6, 1945, an atomic bomb was dropped on the city of Hiroshima. 3 days later, a second bomb was dropped. On Nagasaki, the devastation was unprecedented. Faced with this new, terrible power in a Soviet invasion of Manchuria, Japan announced its surrender on August 15th, officially signing the documents on September 2, 1945. World War II was finally over. From the Blitzkrieg in Poland to the final surrender in Tokyo Bay, World War II was a conflict of unparalleled scale and consequence. It was a story of aggression, of immense suffering, but also of incredible resilience and the ultimate triumph of Allied forces. Understanding this timeline helps us appreciate the sacrifices made and the complex events that shaped the world we live in today. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey through history. If you found this explanation helpful, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into the past. Let us know in the comments which battle you'd like to learn more about next. Until then, stay curious.